Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. And weekly, we are brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Check out AllAccessMMA.com for our video podcast, MMA news, and stories. Ed, you held it down with Tovan last week. Appreciate him being there
Oh
to fill in.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
and really quick, his he had a show that he plugged. It's actually tomorrow night on the 17th. So, I forget that he put the details in last week's episode, but it is November 17th tomorrow night. So make sure you go if you're in the DMV area that he called it, Maryland, Virginia. I forget the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and you can get tickets to check him out and see him live do his thing. He's all about on social media this week. Um, One more thing before we get up, because I know we got a lot of shit to talk about. I promised our boy of combat sports law, Mr. McGracken, that I would bring up the assets that they just posted. Sorry, I meant to tell you that, but we had a lot to catch up on as we were preparing. But I have to bring up the CTE information that they posted on the Fighting Foundation that they shared with the Association of Ringside Physicians. I just want to bring up those images. They're free on their website. Actually, let me bring up their website so people know where to go. It's free on the website for people to like download the assets and use. And so if you own a gym, coaches and trainers out there, and you want to like educate your fighters about the just at least having them be knowledgeable of the risks of CTE and stuff, they have a resources library at ringsidearp.org/fighter resources. Let me just show them up on the screen here. It's just posters that they can put in the gym, so that way it's not in their face, and it's not like it's not like being a dick to anybody trying to train or whatever, or scare them out of training. It's just kind of like an awareness thing. So where is I got all these tabs open? I'm sorry. Ringside Fighter Resources. Here we go. So this is what he's got a link on the combatsportslaw.com if the ringside link is too much for you, but like it lists like the symptoms and what to know and what a concussion is and just everything about CTE. This is literally like you could download it. You can download it right off the website and print out the poster and hang it in your gym or in the locker room if you are a coach or trainer. I might actually print these out to hang up at my spot because we got young guys that want to fight there too over here in North Brunswick. But it's definitely it's a nice thing to hear when you hear that commissions are approving ridiculousness, like you know, slapping the shit out of your brains and shit like that. So,
Yeah, I mean we're
um,
here we're here for combat sports. We're here for violence, but at
yeah,
the same time, it's also
yeah, we want the
at a
athletes to
time
have
where
a.
yeah, it's at a time where we have the technology to figure this stuff out. There's no
Mm-hmm.
reason to abuse your brain more than need be for these athletes that are competing in these sports and football. It goes any kind of contact sport really
Mm-hmm.
can jar the brain. So definitely interesting, kind of cool to see some of the companies. I know it was only Fight Circus, but it was kind of cool to see it start to get accepted and something to kind of not shy away from, like act like you're your sport's so fragile it can't survive a little
Yeah.
bit of knowledge about some safety. So with that said, I think we probably should just jump into this past weekend's UFC, where we're going to talk about some people getting
Probably
hit
got some
hard.
CTE.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know exactly where you want to start. A couple things that stood out to me just on the prelims: Ryan Spann uh, knocking out Dominic Reyes with a power jab. Minute into the fight. Uh, I didn't see that happening. I've been perhaps a little disrespectful of Ryan Spann. I always thought he was kind of like number 10, but really not much of a threat beyond that. And I mean, he shut me up for sure. And I'm interested to see where he goes from here. I know there's a few sluggers that they can put him in there with, but it's I was shocked by that one. I didn't see that one
I
coming.
mean, I was first of all overall like the amount of finishes on this card is probably. I honestly, For me, I think this might be their best card this whole year, and especially in a year where kind of like the interest for folks like us has been waning from this promotion. You know, something I don't know if it's because of Madison Square Garden and the magic that's in that building for sports or whatever it may be, but that fight, the Carlos Olberg opening up the card, the first fight's a KO. You talked about Ryan Span's KO over Dominic Reyes. I didn't like watching Frankie Edgar get knocked out, but I mean, literally, the pay per view portion was two submissions and three KOs or TKOs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
has
mean, yeah, it's
yeah.
good for the Just Bleed fan. I mean, it's action. Some of the matchmaking would lead to that, perhaps. Like you kind of get that, reservation fight thing where you get, and obviously these are all high level opponents, but like the idea of putting Molly McCann in there with Aaron Blanchfield was a mistake. I mean, that one right there created
Well,
its own.
yeah.
It was that's a bad matchmaking mistake by the UFC,
So here's
honestly.
what's funny about that. Aaron Blanchfield wins first round submission, and she's the girl from Jersey that's been riding underneath, taking trips into New York to train the Henzos across the street from the Garden for all the way up until she got her black belt, and she's getting booed because Molly McCann has the UFC marketing machine behind her, and even in winning, Molly McCann still got more coverage as the loser than Aaron Blanchfield. I think that's a little suspect. I mean,
It
you can't.
just goes to show that like certain people, it doesn't matter really if they win or lose. They get the push and
Yeah,
but
I was
one.
glad she won.
Oh yeah, but I just it was anybody that really watches Molly McCann fight realizes that like she has some weaknesses, and if you've watched Erin Blanchfield, you know she doesn't have many. She's
Hmm.
I mean super good prospect right now, and it just seemed like it was an unnecessary fight. As somebody trying to make money on it. Molly McCann's bringing me in this money. We talk about her losing and still
Hmm.
getting all the talks. Put her. I mean, you could really give her jobbers left and right, and it would still it would, kind of be the Conor McGregor treatment a little bit.
Hmm.
Give her the Severs of the division. Give her the, uh, you know, I can't even
Hey,
say
I
the
like Dennis
the.
Seaver.
I get it. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's
No,
there.
I'm
Like
just.
you can kind of work it up a little bit and keep the money train coming in because really it kind of got exposed a little
Mhm.
bit right there. But like you said, Aaron Brownsfield's a killer, and I think she's probably a future champion. Um,
Mhm.
in the uh, there at 125. Moicano looked like a killer. Brad Riddell, a little bit out of his element, I think, in the UFC. If I'm being completely honest, we saw he got. I sound like a schmo saying that, but it just seems like he doesn't have the ground game to be able to compete. We saw what Moicano did. Obviously, Moicano's special, but Jalen Turner did the same thing to him in last July on Fight Week, and Jalen Turner's not
Mm.
necessarily known for like his submission, skills. You'd think you'd get kind of picked apart by Turner.
Yeah.
So, you know, uh,
One thing I want to like, I mean that because it was one of the decisions on the card, but Andre Petrosky versus Wellington Turman. I mean, I know Turman lost, but I was super impressed with his submission defense. I mean, there was a lot of near subs that could have happened, especially in that last round, and just the toughness and his the scrambling and just the way he kind of kept himself to survive at least until the end. I don't know. That's me being in my old man jujitsu self, but I was just like, I was impressed with him, and I was just like, not for nothing, dude. I mean, dude deserves some respect for that. I know, unless you're Molly McCann, you don't get a lot of shine as a loser, but I thought Wellington Turman, I mean, for somebody, I mean, that almost got chicken winged, and God knows what else Petrosky tried to do to him. He survived really well. Um, but yeah, dude, like I don't know what else to say about this card other than the only fight I got wrong, obviously, if you saw our picks with Tavon last week, me and Tavon, we were pretty much the same except for the he picked Gutierrez, but I went with my heart and picked Frankie Edgar. Um, that was not fun to see, but
I was leaning Gutierrez. I kind of thought that uh,
yeah,
something. God, I didn't want
you
it to be
hope, yeah,
the
you
same
hope.
knee that we saw before. I figured he might get clipped behind the ear or something, and something like that. But he took another knee square to the face, and you know, I mean, everybody loves Frankie Edgar. I mean, we had our times. I didn't always root for the guy. I didn't root for him always when he fought BJ Penn and stuff.
My
But he was
favorite
but he
fight
was a
of
gamer.
his, yeah, my favorite fight of his was when they were trying to like send him off into the sunset when they matched him against Yair Rodriguez, and they had Yair Rodriguez as the favorite and everything, and he ran through Yair for the whole fight. I think it was a decision, but
Mhm.
it was a dominant decision. And he like said, he's like, I know they tried to push this kid. He said it in the post cage interview. He's like, but not today. And I was just like, that was one of the moments of that. That's probably one of my favorite wins of his, because it was, one of those attempts to try to push an older guy out, and that wasn't ready. And I mean, he wasn't ready up until the fight. You know what I mean? Like, you listen to him talk. It seemed to have been his camp that convinced him to retire. But I think after, I mean, losing that way, I mean, a guy that you used to never thought would get knocked out versus seeing him get finished the way he's been. I'm glad he's out of it, and I hope he has some success, being a manager or whatever he wants to do. But that was probably watching that, and then having Poirier Chandler right after helped me forget about how sad I was seeing that loss, because that fight was awesome.
It was an awesome fight. I was leaning Poirier. It's hard for me to
Yeah,
pick against Chandler. I've stated many times he's one of my favorite fighters,
yeah.
and he's one of my favorite fighters for the way he loses too. But if I'm going to be totally honest about it, it's kind of wearing a little bit, because it seems like he just kind of makes the same mistake.
Hmm.
And it's like I always heard Boss Fruiten kind of say, like, you get choked out once, you should never get choked out twice by the same move, and that's not
Hmm.
necessarily what's happening, but it's like he's always in a position to win, and then he allows that door to open up, and sometimes he rallies back and gets the win, and then other times he gets flattened and beat up and finished, but
But that's also what makes him.
that's why we love him.
Yeah.
I get it, but I just want to get that one. I want that win so bad, but you could see it unfolding. The winging punches when he has him hurt, he's got Poirier, and you're like, just just kick back a notch, dude. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. I love it. I love this. I love it. Because if he was standing back, I'd be going, just swarm him. So I'm gonna be going either way. Of course, probably as a fan, but in hindsight, you're just like, dude, like, you get these guys hurt, and you got the power. It only takes
Mhm.
one. It doesn't take 40 of them.
The only
So
thing, yeah, yeah. But the only thing, just because when you were doing our picks last week, the only thing Tavon got wrong was saying that he was going to go to the hospital. That they're going to both go to the hospital. They both beat the shit out of each other, but they didn't go to the hospital. And in fact, Chandler did a post fight interview, and because everyone talks about, especially with this division in the UFC, the 155-pound division, like who's next. And one of the names that keeps coming up for him is Conor McGregor. I mean, I know we have to wait for the USADA thing, the 6 months or whatever shenanigans they have to do to make it look like he can come back safely. But I mean, McGregor's been training like an animal. I honestly think I agree with Michael Chandler 100%. Chandler versus McGregor does phenomenal numbers. You can make that a headliner, and people will buy into it. And I honestly think for both guys at this stage in both of their careers, that's a really great matchup.
yeah, a week ago I would have agreed with you more. I think that. I think if Chandler had won this fight, I think that would be a fight that you could talk about
Mm.
making. I have a hard time believing McGregor's going to fight someone coming off of a couple losses in a row. I guess it wouldn't be two losses in a row. He did beat Ferguson, so it'd be the one loss. Um, I just don't want to see the fight at 170, because Chandler's going to look real small next to a
Mm.
bloated out McGregor, and I
Mm.
really don't know if I see McGregor making 155 ever again.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
pretty
he's
thick now.
huge right now, and
Yeah.
I've stated why I think he's, there's a reason probably why he decided not to drug test for the last year.
Mm.
There's usually a reason for that. So, but so that's the only thing. And, like, honestly, I just think I think Chandler might get hit too much, and I think McGregor, it might be a real custom made match for him at this point. Um, but like I said, I'd see it. Poirier probably got to start looking at another title shot. Um, the way he does it, he goes and finishes it. What else are you gonna do?
Hmm.
Sparky chiming in. 281 was a great event, top to bottom. That relative rarity that lived up
Mm-hmm.
to the hype. Opening bell to walkout and new hands raised. Excellent. You bring up a
Yeah,
good
man.
point about new hands raised there as we move on to the co-main event. We had two new champions. Doesn't happen very often. Wei Li Zhang gets her belt back after a little bit of a little bit of a path. She gets to Carla Esparza, outclasses her, finishes her. Excuse me, in the second round. Early
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
show.
I hate to say it, but I saw that coming. I mean, it's just, I mean, we were talking about it last week when we were making our picks. I joked around about, I mean, if Whaley can pick up Francis Ngannou's 292-pound ass, she's not going to have any problem stuffing the takedowns of a strawweight wrestler, So, and then tying up that crucifix and getting the submission, it was thing of beauty. I mean, she's definitely somebody like Dana White was saying in the post fight press conference that she's someone that like it really bothers her when she's not holding the title. So she makes it like such a mission in her like whole like in her life to get the belt when she doesn't have it. And I mean, I don't know. The thing is, like with that division, is it going to be her and Rose now? Like, like what's
I
what?
mean, if you're Rose and you've beat her twice already, it's hard not to say I want my
Mm-hmm.
belt back. If she
Mm-hmm.
wants to have the belt back, I mean, yeah, if I'd beaten somebody twice and they were holding the belt, I'd probably uh, kind of be thinking I should get it. So that's what makes the most sense. It's kind of a revolving door,
Mm-hmm.
same fighters, but you know, we'll see what happens. But really, the main event, um, I'm not gonna lie. After the time, I wasn't super hyped for it. Um,
No, me
and
neither.
not that I didn't think it could be a good fight, but I felt like they were giving kind of a hyped kickboxer a fight after just a couple fights, and this was just kind of a made for TV main event,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that still is kind of what it was. Fortunately, we got um, really good performances from both of the guys. Um, and then Alex Pereira pulled it out in the last round and got the TKO finish, standing finish, after landing his patented left hook. You know, I I just always. I don't think Izzy has like that. He just doesn't have the one punch knockout power. Now he obviously landed the hard one at the end of round one, but I just
Mm-hmm.
don't see it. And obviously there was a size difference. Alex looked huge in there, but when he throws a punch, like he looks more like a K1 beast throwing a punt. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There's a little. It's not a sparring session. Like if Alex Mejia fights Anderson Silva, they ain't going to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're swinging for heads here,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the whole fight from start to finish, you know, Adesanya was landing, but and it
But
was winning.
there was that point at the end of the first round where he almost, if it wasn't saved by the bell, I mean, Pereira was looked like he was going to be on his way out. Um.
Correct, correct. But the second shot was borderline. Like I thought it was late. I guess you can start. I think that's kind of a tricky thing to say. So
Mm-hmm.
we saw like the reaction after a shot that was after the bell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get it. You're right. There was a save by the bell moment, I suppose. But I don't know. Maybe he stumbles back, regains himself. I mean, we saw him go out there and basically, win the second round
Mm-hmm.
after doing that. So like he just doesn't seem like he has the mentality of somebody who's going to go down easy. I you know, he seems like somebody you literally would have to you have to put him out completely unconscious, and maybe Izzy would have done it. I don't know. Maybe he would have landed a kick. Maybe he would have knocked him down. I got a quick stoppage, but I just feel like you got a guy who's just kind of like a killer in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he doesn't have his ground game seems like it seems like he's got holes. I'm not going to sit here and judge a guy who got his brown belt today, but I would say that there would be a lot of guys that could definitely uh, be interesting matchups, for him.
Yeah, I mean Robert Whitaker. I forget what he was speaking at, but he was already asked, and he was like, he definitely feels like he could take him. Honestly, I mean, like you said, I mean,
I just do you
getting.
think Whitaker would take him down, or do you think like it would turn into one where Whitaker would stand with him and get blasted? Because that's kind of like I don't know. Ego seemed to always step in.
Yeah, it seems to be like, I mean, when you if you're trying to remember, anyone of a similar frame, or like because like the thing about Pereira is that he's a big dude. He's like wiry, long, and lanky. So that's kind of like that gives you, even if he's not playing range, maybe in the back of your mind, once the bell rings and when you're facing, because only the guys that face him know, like you feel like you have to kind of like time your entry to fighting him, and that seems to work in his favor, especially when he lands that left hook. Um, so I feel like if somebody can put enough pressure again, like Kelvin Gastelum versus Adesanya, I thought Gastelum really had, because when have we seen, outside of him losing this past weekend, when have we seen Adesanya look as damaged as he did when he fought he beat Kelvin Gastelum, but he didn't look right afterwards.
Mm.
And I know Robert Whitaker the second time wanted to copy that. I feel like the pressure, these rangy striker, high level striker guys, that I think if you pressure them and you don't fall for their range games that they play, I think, especially if they don't have any grappling background, I believe when Adesanya went to light high heavyweight, that kind of got exposed when he lost that fight. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly think everyone I talk to, like my training partners at the gym and everyone that's been following, they're like, I think the next whoever he fights, whether it be Whitaker or whoever, they probably beat him. Because like you said, he got fast tracked to Adesanya just because of the history. So,
Yeah, I mean, and I don't, it'd be interesting to see those fights go down. To me, he's kind of like a light heavyweight Paul Daly in a sense, where
mhm,
it's like if you allow the dude to stand in front of you and throw punches for 3 or 5 rounds, there's a really good chance eventually he's going to land something that's going to really screw you up.
mhm.
But if you take him down, or like you said, if you pressure him and you really stay on him, you might be able to fluster him and land something and change the momentum of a fight. Um, I just that left hook, man, especially that left hook's a dangerous punch because people don't. The left hook is what takes people out.
I
You
don't
know?
I don't recall anybody that, yeah, it's always the left hook that, like, even in this exchange with Adesanya, that's what started the end when he landed it. And I don't recall, I mean, outside of being at events live, but when you're watching it, I don't recall seeing someone land punches like that, and you can, again, and this was in Madison Square Garden, and you can hear the punch land.
Mhm.
Like even when the ones that landed that looked like they shook them. Like, I don't know if that's something they do with their mic, because we know UFC has a lot more technology with their 4K and all the other shit that they have with their money, like to make stuff look a little bit more dramatic for their what they call it, thrill and agony stuff that they put after the events. But I was just like, man, this guy's literally he's literally like everything he throws, it's probably hurting, even if it's not dropping, you know.
No, that's what I mean. It's he's a heavy puncher. Um, a heavyweight guy, kind of like Bada Hari, where he's like, if you watch like
Mhm.
the K1 or like the guys that swing and like you just go, God, that's gotta hurt. Like
Yeah.
there's no wasted punches. Every punch
Hmm.
they throw has the intention of ending the fight, and um, I think it'll be fun while it lasts. I think if depending on how they want to match make it, like
Well, it looks like the rematch, based on Dana White's reaction, and obviously Adesanya wants it. The rematch is probably going to happen. I would say maybe if they go back to Australia, or maybe whatever. So we're probably going to have to wait around for that and see all the rigmarole and the marketing for that. But I wouldn't mind seeing, I know Whitaker's got the fight in front of him, but I wouldn't mind seeing him paired against somebody else. Um, cause so because that would shut up, if he wins, then that shuts up everybody doubting him now. And
yeah, I just uh, I mean, he's lost to him 3 times. Given 2 were in kickboxing, but it's gonna be hard to recover, man, if you go 0 for 4. Like, where do you go from there? Like, he really could be a gatekeeper for the division, even if Pereira can't, loses to some of these other guys, and he's just gonna know that, like, all he has to do is sign up to fight Izzy, and he can get, I mean, it's like it seems like the mental game at that point would be uh, pretty wild. I just,
Yeah,
you
and I
know,
know I saw like Kamzat Chimaev was saying he wanted to fight him, and especially with them, wanting him to be at that weight class now, considering everything that happened when he couldn't make the 170 allegedly for the Nate Diaz thing. Um, I wouldn't. I mean,
There's not a lot of fights though. It's Whitaker, Adesanya, Cannoniers coming off a loss.
maybe if they push up, if they, because look, we know rankings don't matter in the UFC anymore. Marketing is what matters. And if Chimaev Pereira sells, they'll make that fight in a heartbeat.
I almost see that as bad as Diaz and Chimaev.
Hmm.
Like if you think
Yeah,
the guy's
Chimaev.
weakness,
I think Chimaev drags him. Yeah.
like I don't, and I'd hate you can't. I think it would be a shame to reward Chimaev after the fiasco of the last
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. Don't give
Um,
him. Yeah. Yeah.
so I mean, but again, he might have just been doing what his bosses were telling him to do. So you know, but anyways, great event. Was it, 9 out of 10 probably something like that. I mean, some could
Yeah,
argue a
it's
10 out of
definitely
10.
of all the
You know,
events of the UFC I watched this year, UFC 281 is the one that I'm glad I watched. Um, you
it's one
know,
you'd
you,
watch from start to finish over again, which is a
yeah,
rarity these days.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
and that the Chandler Poirier fight. I mean, was Dana White said something funny at the post fight press conference when they were talking about it. He was like, when he was given the fight of the night, the bonuses out. He was like, we probably could have written that one at the beginning of the week before the fight, and it's like because everybody knew that was going to be what we saw. And I mean, I don't know about the fish hooking and all that stuff, but I mean, it was that was definitely man.
like I'm looking at the rankings. Like, how about Chandler Dos Anjos? How about Chandler Turner? Jalen Turner.
Hmm.
What I mean? Like, yeah, I know Gamrot was kind of going for a fight there. I kind of like all those better than the McGregor fight, other than just a huge payday for Michael Chandler, which is always nice for a fighter that you root for. But those fights sound a little bit more fun to maybe allow him to get back on track because you're another loss away. I mean, how many? They're gonna milk it because he's fighting great fights, but realistically, you lose 3 fights in a row, 4 fights in a row,
Hmm.
you don't recover from that,
Well,
not at 36, 37 years old.
I forgot who said it during fight week. I don't know if it was Gaethje or Chandler when they were talking about McGregor, but there because apparently, I mean, I didn't even think about this. McGregor's last fights were guys coming off of losses, weren't they? Like, what didn't he lose to?
Cowboy.
I mean, Cowboy came off a loss and then he fought McGregor, and I don't remember if Poirier was after Oliveira when they fought when he fought or after.
He fought McGregor before he fought Oliveira because he wanted
Yeah,
the
yeah,
money fight rather than the
that's right,
title fight.
that's right. Yeah.
So,
So I don't know. Yeah.
Moicano, we just saw Moicano get a big
Hmm.
win. Moicano, Chandler sounds fun too. We saw Chandler Yamauchi in
Yeah,
Bellator.
but that's fun for us, man. I mean, the way the UFC is now, I'm like the fact. I honestly, my prediction is this: they book it because of with the whole they keep mentioning 6 months for USADA. I would not be surprised if they book Chandler McGregor for International Fight Week, July 2023.
The only thing is, I don't think that they're going to have. I'd be surprised if they had International Fight Week without a title fight main in the headlining, and McGregor's going to headline no matter who's on the card.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a title fight in the co-main event, but that's kind of discredits your title a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, that was UFC this weekend. We got a bunch of stuff going on.
So
Don't want to
much.
tell anybody to turn off if you're watching live right now, but Invicta 50 is taking place, strawweight tournament for the title, and a couple other fights on that card. So that's on YouTube, Invicta channel. Um, Also, LFA this Friday night.
Dude,
Uh,
everything is happening Friday night. LFA 147, Bellator 288, one on Prime Video 5. If you don't have Prime Video, use our affiliate link in the description to sign up for Prime Video because that's on prime time Friday night. Did I miss anything? LFA 1 championship, Bellator 288.
Justin Wetzel fighting co-main event
Yep.
LFA.
Yeah, he's been
Probably
on
a
the
win away from the
podcast.
UFC. Guy who's kind of been blocked out a little bit from some fights. Seems like over the last year or so. So
Yeah.
good to see him back in the action. BKFC 33 also this Friday to add to the calendar. Joey Beltran. He returns to the squared circle to
Mhm.
face another MMA vet, hard hitting Houston Alexander, who's been successful so far in his BKFC run. That's in Nebraska. Be interesting to see what kind of size difference. I know Joey Beltran's in good shape right now, so he probably won't be the heavyweight Joey Beltran version. I think it'll be more of a slimmed up version, and
Mhm.
Houston Alexander is going to come out there like the animal he always is. Imagine we'll see a lot of slugging in that one. So that's Friday night also. Um, and then what we moved to Saturday and we got big Bellator. Or no, Friday night's Bellator also. We're not
Yeah,
even
Bellator 288. Yeah,
yeah, Bellator 288 on
yeah.
Friday. So we get the rematch of the
Oh
fight that
yeah.
was
Let me
stopped
bring up
early.
that card so we could
Good.
look at it because like you said, I mean, that was part of the is that still part of the light heavyweight Grand Prix? I know we had a lot. I mean, not poor rest in peace Anthony Rumble Johnson was supposed to be in that tournament. We lost him on Sunday. Um but yeah, let me make sure I share this screen correctly. Bellator 288 fight card. Here we go.
So I would answer your question. I would say yes. This reminds me of Fedor and it happened with Nog when they
Mm-hmm.
fought Grand Prix final, and it ended with a unintentional headbutt, and a cut. And then they fought again, but it was outside of the. Basically, the tournament ended in a what no contest, and now we're now I bet you the money's online though. Now you say that, I guess we're talking extra paycheck and stuff. So I imagine the winner probably still gets $1 million bonus check.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in sense they kind of is carrying over, but Corey Anderson was kind of taking over that fight,
Mm-hmm.
um, looking good. Last time I picked Nemkov, you know,
now,
I,
now, now you got to second guess that.
I got to second guess that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Nemkov still lands something early in the fight that kind of puts Anderson on skates. Um, I think that that's possible, but with what I saw in the first fight, it seems to me like Anderson's going to be the bigger fighter and be able to impose his will a little bit. Once the fight goes to the ground, it doesn't make necessarily for much excitement all the
Mhm.
time. But it would be hard. I'm going to have to pick Corey Anderson based off of what I saw at the last fight. If that fight doesn't end the way it does, I think he's the light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for the having faced each other before, and because I'm pretty sure Nemkov's making corrections, knowing based off of the last fight. But like you said, I mean, I feel like Corey Anderson's just his energy is different, his attitude is different. He really seems to enjoy being in Bellator. I wouldn't be surprised if the title changed hands either. I mean, hey, it's already been we've already had a pretty heavy title changing last quarter. You look at Jillian taking the title from Del Boni, and then the titles from last week's UFC, and now we have this fight coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens too. The co-main event is also a title fight.
I think we might get a double title switch. I think which would be extremely odd to happen in
Yeah.
UFC and Bellator in a 7 day span. Patricky Pitbull, brother of Patricio, the all-time Bellator great. Patricky's been around a long time too, 24-10. He's fighting Usman Nurmagomedov, 15-0. Got the name. Doesn't have the same fighting style. More of a
Mm,
violent fighter.
yeah.
Um, I he might as well have Magomedov in his name. He does have Medov. He does have Magomedov. It's right
Yes,
there in front of me.
Nurmagomedov. Yeah,
So there
Usman.
you go. Um,
This could be his cousin.
you know,
So
we don't pick against Megomeds.
yeah, we don't
Uh,
pick against the Dragostans. Not for nothing. If Usman wins this, you got him the lightweight champ here. Islam champ over in the UFC. That whole clan is gonna have the freaking sport of MMA on lockdown at 155. I mean that's bragging rights for sure. Really quick, Kevin Nicholson, who always chimes in on the podcast when we go live. He's mentioning the kicks to Israel's left leg damaged his perennial nerve temporarily. He said he lost control of that foot. Yes, he did say that at the in the post fight press conference too. I forgot to mention that when we were doing the 281 stuff for UFC, but yeah, for sure that his footwork was compromised. But back to Bellator 288. Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, and it looks like the fans agree with us. 80% of the people are going with Usman Nurmagomedov. I mean, we'll call it name recognition, call it recognizing that the folks from Dagestan are just wrecking balls. I don't know
I
what to
mean, it's
say.
Patricki's got some TNT in his hands though. He can land a big punch, so
Hmm.
this might be too big of a step up for Usman too. So we'll
Yeah.
see how I mean, it's a huge step up for him. He's probably getting the title a little bit. I mean, he's got a great record, 15-0, but his resume isn't necessarily as deep as everybody else.
Hmm.
As Sparky points out, Musayev um, is likely next. He's already
Hmm.
got a win over Pitbull
Hmm.
in Ryzen. So great fight. You got the two main events, two title fights, and you got some
Yeah.
familiar names. Daniel Weichel. Um, you can have that last name if you would like it.
Teamwork at Kizriev. We'll go with Kizriev.
Kizriev will work. So Weichel and Kizriev. Kizriev 11-0, coming off of an ACA run, making his debut in Bellator.
And
You know,
Tyrell Fortune, that's one of the Bellators
Tyrell Fortune,
they
one of
like
their
to,
heavyweight
yeah.
prospects that they worked up, and then he ran into Tim Johnson, and that kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's working his way back up, coming
Yeah.
off a nice win.
And the prelims are really stacked for Bellator 288 too. I don't want to go through them all, but there's a lot of them. And this is going to be on Friday, early Friday from Chicago. So if you're in freezing ass Chicago and you want to get tickets, you should definitely try to get in there and watch Bellator 288 because it's they make for some fun live events, as Matt can attest to.
Yes, they do. And Sparky chiming in has been out to Chicago for him. So, and I think he was out there for Mir versus Fedor. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I think that kind of wraps us up. Ton of action this Friday. UFC does have an event on Saturday. Lewis versus Spivak. I think it's the ESPN Plus card.
Hmm.
Didn't get a chance to break that down, but yeah,
There's so much
BKFC.
going on, yeah. And there's also some really good regional stuff going on. You guys know I write for Expectation Sports. Maverick MMA 21. Um, uh, Boma Carmo. Hopefully, I'm not messing up his name. Versus Dennis Bazooka, who trains with Aljamain Sterling. The 145 title is on the line there at Maverick MMA 21. If you want to sign up for Spectation Sports, there's a link in the code for a discount from that. Michael asking, you guys stream during the fights? Usually we do. We're kind of wrapping up now so we can watch the Invicta that's on right now on YouTube, Invicta FC 50. Usually we do, but because it's a it's a tournament, we'd be probably we'd have to stream until midnight. But if we are when we record on Wednesdays and there's fights going on, we usually do like a stream and we call them fight site chats for folks that want to watch them.
Yeah, we tend to do it for Invicta. We haven't done UFC or Bellator yet, but if that would be something maybe
Yeah,
look forward
if
to
you
in the
guys want to
future.
see that, definitely I'll drop up. Maybe I'll put a poll in the YouTube chat thing because now that we can post like social things there for folks to let us know what they want to see. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, everybody's blasting out their best fights like right now, just before the holiday weekend. We might take off next week because with the Wednesday, we usually record Wednesdays and Thanksgiving the next day, and I know Matt and I got a lot of family stuff that we must prepare for and boozing to do. So we may or may not record next Wednesday. We'll see. But Matt, man, I mean, I'm glad you're back. I'm sorry you missed last week. Me and Tavon missed you. But we knew you had you're dealing with some
Some
shit over there.
homeowner duties kicked in, and sometimes you
Duties.
come home because sometimes you come home to stuff that you got to take care of that you really don't want to. But anyways, fans can check out the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Edit Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as always, you can check us out at allaccessmma.com for our video podcast. I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate that, everybody. Thank you, Michael.
Yep. We'll be tuning in right now as soon
Yeah,
as
we're going
we
to jump
sign
from
off.
this and head over to Invicta. Like I said, it's on Invicta's YouTube channel. So as we sign off, everybody should go over there and check out some of that great action over there. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Peace.